Hello, before we start, I do want to make a bit of an introduction and a couple disclaimers. I do suggest that you watch this part till the end, but if you want to skip, who am I to judge? The keystamps will be in the description, so you're more than welcome to skip straight to the tutorial. But if you decide to stick around, hi, I am Noki, the creator of this model, and I guess in this beautiful gato model too. Just kidding. Hello. I already posted a couple speed paints on this model we're working on. You can check them out. The link is going to be somewhere, I guess, over there. But for the rigging part, instead of speed rigs, I guess you can call them that, I wanted to make a bit of a tutorial, as I haven't seen that many tutorials on animal models. And here comes the disclaimer. I am not a professional rigger. I've done a couple models, but I still have a lot to learn. I still vibe my way through some of the things, and this is just the process that I followed to make this model. I am always open to constructive criticism and advice, and if you have any questions or want me to clarify some things, let me know in the comments, but otherwise, let's get started. Okay, so let's start. When you open your Live2D, you will see absolutely nothing. So in order to import your files, you just need to take your Photoshop file and drag it in. I would recommend using full scale. If your computer can't handle it like mine, go for half preview. This is basically just the preview. It does not change the size of your model, and you can always change it later in the settings if you want to. I usually go for half because my computer is not that strong. And here we go. So the first thing you will notice is some layers might not be visible, like the tail is, yeah, we don't have half of the tail. That's pretty much because when you saved your Photoshop file, your tail, this layer, was not visible. So all you need to do is just locate it. All your files are going to be in here. So just locate the tail, which is right here. I didn't put it anywhere. And click on this little eye thingy. And here we go. Now, another thing you notice is some of your layers that were clipped before are now unclipped. And that's also a really easy fix, and you will need to do this for every single layer that you have. So what you need to do is find this layer and go to Clipping ID. What you'll need to do there is find the parent layer. So find the layer that you wanted to clip to. In our case, it's going to be the body, somewhere here, body color. So you select it, and now it's clipped. Another thing I do recommend doing is removing the background that you imported, so it's usually going to be called paper. You can just press delete and delete it, and that's for the reason because Live2D, you can change the background of all of that in Live2D. So just press on here, and you can change whatever color you want. You can make it transparent, you can make it anything. I like to keep it mine white or just transparent, but for now I'm just going to keep it as white. So that's the most basic settings. Now, what we actually need to do to start rigging is we need to create some art meshes. So this field shows you the actual layers that you can manipulate. So the top one, where you see part and project, these are just the layers for your library, so whatever you have. And these ones are the actual ones that you make deformers and everything. So I want you to select all of these layers and go to this auto mesher. Now we want to make presets and go for standard. This will generate all of the meshes around every single layer part, and it's gonna look terrifying. We can always change it later to go for light or heavy deformer depending on the part. So if the part moves a lot or needs a lot more like deforming, you might want to go for heavy, but that also is quite resource heavy. Yeah, it will take a lot from your computer. So usually go for standard unless something really needs a heavy deformer. One thing before we start rigging is I did not import all of my layers. In fact, while drawing this model, I did forget a bunch of layers. For example, my eyes, if we move it, there is nothing behind. So I forgot to put a white for my eyes. So in order to do that, you will need to draw them and save as a Photoshop file, just like you did for the model. So to do that, you go to your project, and you import the same way, just drag and drop in here. And in this window, you want to select the model that you're working on. So this is the model we are working on. Click select and add all layers as new art mesh. Here we go. And now we can go back to parts. If we scroll all the way up in all the layers that we have available, usually the new imported files are going to be right on the top, which are right here. And we can just drag and drop them into where they need to be. So let's locate the eyes folder right here. Now we just take it, click and hold and drag where they need to be, which in our case is going to be behind the iris. And we're gonna do the same for the other one. Here we go. And everything else you can just delete. Whoop. Here we go. And now if we go back, now we have our eyes. Do remember that you still need to make an art mesh. So if we select one of these layers, they don't have an art mesh, so you just need to repeat the same process. Select the files, select the layers that need art meshes, go to this button, presets, and standard. Here we go. After we did all of this, the next thing I do like to do is to organize our files a little bit. So organize the deformers. So first of all, what is a deformer? The way rigging works is you basically take a layer and you move each of these individual meshes. I feel like it's a better example. If we take an eye, we can move each of these individual meshes, and that's basically how rigging works. So you move all of those wherever you want them to be, but moving each of these little dots, especially if you have something like a heavy mesh, for example, like this, it's gonna be hell. It's really time consuming. So this is where actually deformers come in handy. For deformers, I'm going to put an example right here. Just create a random deformer around my eye. For deformers, you see a little box and you can just move the whole thing. So for example, the red one allows you to change the size, the red square. And the green squares is what allows you to change the actual layer. So when you pull or drag or move these little squares, you are dragging all of the little meshes around this square. You can change the amount of squares you have by going right here. So in your inspector tool, it's going to be somewhere else. I have changed all of my windows, but in your inspector tool, you can see the bizarre division number. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right or not, but you can change the number of these green squares. And that's obviously going to make your warp deformers a little bit more detailed. So deformers are very important, but we also have parameters. So parameters is what actually expresses the movement. For example, we can create a angle X parameter around this deformer. So we can make 2 keyframes, we can add 3 keyforms or as many as we need. For example, let's go to the left one. We make the eye small. And for the right one, we can make the eye big. So basically a parameter is going to tell you like in which direction the head moves and all of that. So we're kind of saving the settings at these points. It's kind of hard to explain what parameters do, but I hope as we keep rigging, it kind of explains itself. Okay, so I Ctrl-Z'd everything back to original. We don't have any deformers. I also like to use deformers as a folder, just to organize things. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to again select everything and make a new deformer. You can call it anything. You don't need to add these brackets. I just do it because it's pretty. You can call them anything, but make sure you name your deformers like you name your layers, so you understand what it is. Okay, don't just number it. It's going to be confusing. So first of all, this is everything. This is our entire body, and we're going to use it at the very end when we do breathing movements. Next thing, I'm going to select the head. That did not work. We can select the head by hand, that's fine. We're just going to ears. Here we go. I think that's the entire head. I'm going to make another deformer, call it head. And that's just to organize our files a little bit. So that's the head. After that, I want to separate my front legs because I feel like they're going to move differently. So if something moves on its own, you make a new deformer. Front paws, I'm going to put them on another deformer. Front paws. And after that, I'm going to also separate my tails. We're going to have a front tail and a back tail, but I'll probably do it later because we don't have that many layers in here, so I don't need to organize them. They're just going to be at the very end. So now the next thing I want to do is the whole body. I'm going to organize it, make another deformer, call it body. Here we go. To collapse or expand all of your layers here, you can press on this button, and that will just collapse or expand all of them. So the tails are gonna just hang in there. We're going to do them later. So first things first, what I want to do is I want to do the head turn. in particular the Z head turn, which is going to be side to side. So to do that, you go to your head and you go to this rotation deformer. So you use rotation deformer when something rotates. Call it head Z, create, and that will notice the hierarchy of really important. So the rotation deformer now becomes the parent, and this head deformer becomes the child of that head Z. It's a bit confusing, and sometimes it's going to be a pain. Just bear with me. So we want to move this little guy. This is our rotation deformer. You want to hold control, then click on your button and drag it all the way down. All the way down to the base of your head, and make sure it is centered. So everything needs to be perfectly centered. You can click on this little grid button. That will make a grid and that will help you a little bit. We put it all the way at the base of our head. We center it with this grid that we have. Here we go, that looks better. And then what we need to do, after that we go to our parameter, find angle Z. That's going to be the one that moves left to right. You want to make 3 key points, so this button right here. And after that, the middle one is going to be just the center. So you drag it all the way to the left and you go back to your model and you move the head to the left as much as you want. Gonna keep it like this for now. Now, instead of doing everything by hand, you can go to this hamburger thingy, click reflect motion, and reflect horizontally. And that will make it go left to right. Now, if you made your canvas a little bit too small like I did, like we see some of the layers go out, that's not really a problem. What you can do is you go to File, then Canvas Settings, and here you can change the number of pixels, the size of it. I'll go 500 more just to give myself a little bit of space, and here we go. So after this, what we can do, when we move our head, our neck becomes really weird, so we also need to rig this. So to do that, find the neck layer. In my case, I don't have a neck, I just have the chest. So I'm going to find the layer, I separate them by line and color. So I'm going to select both, make another deformer. You want to make a deformer when you have to deform multiple things at the same time. So if it was just one layer, I would probably not make a deformer and just rig it on its own. But since we have 2 layers here, I'm going to go chest Z. Here we go. And we do the same thing on the same parameter. So this parameter angle Z is going to be responsible for all the Z movements. So you don't need to make each parameter for each layer. So what we want to do, we create 3 key points again, and we can get rid of this red square because the red square is usually responsible for just changing things side to side. So we can squish and squash. So I press on this thing to remove the square and we can start moving our neck. So go again all the way to the left and just move however you think looks better. So I'm going to move the right side a bit up. I still have some things over here, some colors, but that's because it's my body. So I can just get rid of it for now so we know what it looks like, just for the neck. So the right side looks pretty nice, I quite like it. Now I also want to move the left side, so this part. So we just do the same thing on the same parameter key point. I will move this a bit down. Go, let's see how it looks. Okay, that is pretty cute. Okay, that is adorable. And now the same thing to reflect, so we don't have to rig the same things over and over. You go to your key point, the 3 lines, and then reflect motion. Reflect horizontally. Ta-da! And now it moves left to right. One more thing that really helps me with rigging is the ability to hide the deformer squares, so I can actually see what is moving without my view getting abstracted by it. And this is done with a shortcut. So if you go to File, you go to Keyboard Shortcuts, and in the Show, it's going to be a hide selected state. I set mine to Control Space because nothing is used this command. So every time I press Control Space, the deformer and all other things get toggled on and off. They're still there, it's just a toggle for view. So that's it for the basic setup and general Z movement. I will split these tutorials into parts so it's not just a 3 hour long video, but I hope this part was easy to follow. If you have any questions, let me know and I'll make the next part very shortly, but I'll see you then.